You know security is hard, so let's assume we're probably gonna get pwned by noon. But if we all start to get the basics right, we might not fully get pwned until tonight.
Hello friends, welcome to the 7 Minute Security Podcast. My name is Brian Johnson, and this is part 5, the final chapter of Pentesting the OWASP Juice Shop. There is a ton to get through. I don't think really any background is necessary, but if you're watching this and for some reason are like, what the heck is this about? Go back and watch parts 1 through 4 and then watch this one and it should all make sense. So let's start today off by telling the shop about a vulnerable library it's using. And we need to mention the exact version to make the scoreboard light up. Now what you'll notice when I hunt for the solution to this vulnerability, as well as many of the others in this final episode, is that I use a combination of just brute Googling and dorking around and or begging the developers for help. So in this case, they recommended that I look to the JSON file backup that we pulled in a previous episode and look specifically at the dependencies that I've highlighted here. And so all I did really was just kind of start with number 1 and do some Google searching, to see if I might have a vulnerable version of this library on my hands. And as we go through the Google findings here, it appears that I struck good fortune right off the bat, because SQLize has some SQL injection vulnerabilities. So I'm just going to go ahead and go over to the Juice Shop, and I'm going to leave them a note saying that I'm pretty sure SQLize 1.7 is no bueno. And there we go, we're on the board. All right, and using some of those tenacious Google tactics, let's figure out an algorithm or library that the Juice Shop should definitely not be using. So I went back to the JSON file and kind of went through these one by one, and I'm going to condense the end of this story, or the end of this hunt, and focus on Z85, because I found out it was indeed an algorithm, but I couldn't figure out a whole lot about it until I included one of the Juice Shop author's name in my search. And then I discovered an interesting little tidbit or tool, and that is this Z85 command line client for this particular encoding. So I tried my darnest to get it going on my Linux system, and I had issues that were probably pebcac. They were probably existing between chair and keyboard. So I decided to go a little bit more of the easy route in my mind, and that is just to get this lit up on a Windows VM. Now the process for doing this is pretty straightforward and well documented, so I'm showing it in fast motion here. But it's really just a matter of downloading an executable, clicking next, finish next, and then you just need to go to the GitHub page for the Z85 command line tool and installing it using the commands you're seeing there. So then we're good to go, and we can just run Z85 to see the command line options, which are pretty straightforward. We've got an encode and a decode. So what I'm going to do is take the coupons that I captured in a previous episode and decode them, which again, this is sped up, but as you can see, it is pretty trivial to get the plain text data. So let's just take a quick time out and go to the scoreboard, and let's report to the Juice Shop that they definitely should not be using Z85. And there we go, more green on the scoreboard, which makes us happy to be alive. Now, the final thing we're going to want to do with this encoder or decoder is we are going to want to forge ourselves a coupon that gives us a discount of at least 80% on anything we buy. So, to do that, we are just going to use Z85's encode feature and use some of our existing coupons as reference to figure out what syntax we need. So I am just going to use month of October, because that's when I was working on this. October of 16 for 2016. And, I'm feeling generous for myself. Let's make this coupon give us 90% discount. And we can verify this by logging into the juice shop. Let's add something to our cart, and let's plug in our coupon before checkout. All right, and then once we process our checkout, oh, we saw the green. Let's go back and check the scoreboard. And we are big winners today. All right, let's keep going. Let's apply some advanced cryptanalysis to find the real Easter egg. So what I did with this one is I looked at the easter.gg file, and I took that big fat long string and I ran it through every decoder, decryptor, both online and offline that I could think of. I eventually got good news when I stuck it into Burp. I just tried decoding it as all the different formats and finally found something that looked usable when I did a base 64 decode. Then I took that string and did the same kind of brute force operation. And once I ran it through a ROT13 decoder, then I found something that looked just like a really long, ugly URL. So if we take that URL and put it into our juice shop, we will find this beauty. Isn't that nice? We can twirl it around and we can change colors, and we could just have fun like this all day long. But there is still so much juice shop to own. We must continue. We must continue and get back on track. All right, so there's the green for our scoreboard. We have found the real Easter egg. So let's move on to the next challenge. Let's do this. Let's use Burp and tamper with some requests again to upload a file larger than 100 kilobytes and also upload a file that has no PDF extension. This exercise is really helpful because I do this a lot. Yeah, I think you'll run into this a lot on pen tests where you're trying to bypass controls that are in place. So I'm going to just browse to a PDF here on my system. Really, any small PDF will do. And then I'm going to turn on intercept, and I am going to send that request through. And then in Burp, I'm just going to take a look at the request, and down here you see the PDF extension. I'm just going to change that to something else. I'll just try to make it a text file and we'll forward that through. And it looks like we've done it. That's awesome. Let's use that same approach and try to upload a file that is over 100 kilobytes. So first I'm going to start with one that is smaller than 100 kilobytes. And I will turn on intercept here, and we will send that through. But then in Burp, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste a whole bunch of data just to get us well past that 100 kilobyte cap. And when we do, and when we forward that through, we will find a wonderful greeting for us on the scoreboard. Just love seeing those green banners. Okay, let's keep going. Let's look at changing a link in a description of the OWASP product. So we're going to tamper, we're going to take out the link that is there and replace it with a different one. Now what I tried to do is add a product to my cart and then take that request into Burp and try to do a post or a put with some modified data such that I could update the description of the item in the shop. But long story short, it wouldn't work for me. And so the developers recommended that I check out a tool called Postman, which you can install right into Chrome. And I kept tinkering with and replaying the request there until I could see in the bottom of the screen there that the link was updated. And it turns out I had some minor spacing and quotation issues that were causing it not to work in Burp. So once I got those ironed out in Postman, I went back into Burp, replayed the modified request, and as you can see on the right here, I finally did get the link to change. That's kind of a very short version of a very long story, but there you have it. And you can see in the background there, the scoreboard has lit up green, which is freaking gorgeous. And now we are off to the next challenge. All right, let's focus on these XSS attacks. The Tier 2 one here focuses on bypassing a client-side security mechanism. And this was just a lot of trial and error, but what I ended up doing is finding a vulnerability in the user registration process. So I signed myself up for an account, and then before actually submitting it, I turned on intercept. And what I was attempting to do here is tamper with the email field in such a way that I would inject some cross-site scripting. But as you'll see as I forwarded through here, it didn't work. And so, and this is just something that I've slowly started to learn, just from experience, that, when the XSS payload doesn't work one way, it can be a whole bunch of different reasons. But one thing to try is, and this is where repeater is perfect. Send it into repeater and then play a little bit with escaping different characters. So one of the first things you can try is escaping quotes with backslashes. And once I did that, I had much better luck right out of the gate. And there's the green on the scoreboard that we love so much. Now, as far as XSS Tier 3, I had to, again, ask the developers for some help. They suggested looking at that JSON file that we've referenced for several of the vulnerabilities. And when I did some Google searching and some research on these various dependencies, I spent some time looking at the sanitize HTML. And what I found there, again, just by Googling sanitize HTML and looking at the issues list, is that one of the Juice Shop authors had in fact reported an issue where there was a cross-site scripting vulnerability. So basically what I did is just tried to look at the issue he reported and then make an XSS payload that followed suit. So essentially, just in a notepad here, it kind of looks like this. So we've got the originally reported payload on the first line there. We'll get the payload we're concerned with on the second line. And then I'm going to paste in kind of my Frankenstein hybrid of the two. And once we put that into the Contact Us form, we are champions. Now, for XSS Tier 4, I'm going to shorten that story a little bit. As you can see, I was trying to update one of the product descriptions to include the XSS payload, but with Burp, I was having a heck of a time, so I found this Postman tool to just make it a little easier for me to troubleshoot, and eventually, as you'll see on the bottom of the split screen there, I was able to put my XSS payload right into the description. So then it's just a matter of copying that over into Burp and sending that through, and that's more green on the board for us. All right, one challenge that I had no clue on where to go with was the wherever you go, there you are challenge. So the developers gave me a kick in the right direction and said that the purpose of this one is to defeat this redirect here. So let's take a look. Let's open up that link. Oops, not that so much, but that. And you'll see it's a redirect that takes us to the Juice Shop. However, if we tamper with that URL and try to go to, say, Disney.com, things don't work. So through a lot of trial and error and a little bit of past experience, I decided to do some no-byte manipulation. And what I discovered is that if you try to redirect to the root of the Juice Shop site, like this, and then also use the no-byte %00, things work. So you see here we are at the root of the Juice Shop. And if we go check the scoreboard, we have made this little red friend green. All right, moving right along, let us try and order the Christmas special offer. of 2014. Sounds like an enticing deal. I want it in my cart now. Now, I want to show you a couple things that didn't work. What I attempted to do is use our previously discovered union injection vulnerability to show me this hidden product in the application's catalog of products. But I was not successful, so I'm gonna kind of fast forward here a little bit. But I took the basic union injection payload and then tweaked it so that all the products and their prices and IDs would show up. However, I found that the way I did this, it must have just kind of broken the structure of the data behind the scenes, because even then when I looked in my basket, the Christmas special wouldn't be there. So I wrestled with this for a long time and eventually had to just give up and wave the white flag with the OWASP development team. And I said, how am I supposed to get past this challenge? And they threw me a bone and gave me the payload you see in the search box there, which will reveal the Christmas special. And then you can add that to your cart. It appears properly in your basket. You hit checkout. And you are golden like the Golden Girls. Oakley dokes. So let's go hunting for language files now. And what I did to kind of prepare for this attack, which I figured would be a brute force exercise, is I began by taking all the API language codes and I just copied them into a text file so that I could feed them into Burp. But I actually ended up using dirbuster. So my base URL just gets plopped up top there. I'm going to use my language text file as the payload. I don't need to look for directories. I'm just going to do files. And you know what? Actually, I'm sorry. Let me back up just a little bit. Here is what I did actually before looking at dirbuster. Is I changed the language a few times on the site, and then just saw how it behaved. And it looks like it would load an appropriate .json file for each language, so you can see it change there. So that is where I aimed my dirbuster for the brute force attack. So I'm going to start with this directory, and I'm going to brute force .json extension instead of PHP or HTML or whatever else. And once I start my attack, as you can see, boom, right away, I have found the language file that never made it into production. All right, good to go there. Now, allow us to do a bit of time travel. And we will go back to the golden era of web design. Now, I had no flipping idea what this meant, so the developers threw me another hint and gave me some keywords to search for. And once I did, I found the following: a GeoCities theme called GeoBootstrap. And they also helped me get going with the web console built into Chrome so that I could issue the commands necessary to load this gorgeous theme into production on the Juice Shop. The video got cut off a little bit, so I've included a subtitle there to help you out. But once you execute that command, the Juice Shop will light up like Christmas morning and bring joy to the hearts of children who can remember GeoCities in its full, beautiful glory, with just these sexy color schemes, typefaces that you couldn't really read, blinky icons that would make your eyes bleed. It really was a better time back then, kids. But anyway, that's good. That's more green on the board for us, and we are on to the next of few remaining challenges. Oh, and as a matter of fact, we are on the last one. We need to fake a continue code that will unlock the non-existent challenge 99. Now, for this, I was given the hint to, once again, look at the package.json file. And after doing a bunch of digging around in these dependencies again, one that popped out to me was this hash IDs. Now, I didn't really know anything about hash IDs, so of course I did some searching and came across hashids.org. And that site has a link to a demo tool where you can actually go and tinker with hash IDs. So after a nice nudge from the JuShop developers, they had me take a look at this third window where we've got the actual values we want to try to encode. We have got a salt that we can modify, as well as a string length. So what I did is went back and looked at the very first continue code I ever captured, which was the discovery of the scoreboard, and that was 60 characters long. So I plugged that in here, and then the value I wanted to encode, I made that 99, since that's the code we're hunting to unlock. And then for the salt, the developers gave me a hint that it would be something that was very vain. So I went with this list here. I'm just kind of shortening a long search. Different combinations of the developer's name, Juice Shop, capital Juice Shop, Juice Space Shop, all one word, all different caps, and I finally got lucky on the very last one. All caps, OWASP, space, capital Juice, space, capital Shop. And once we do that final copy to the clipboard and paste that continue code into the scoreboard, we will see one of the happiest sights ever known to man, perhaps, which is an all-green scoreboard. Now, I was so happy to see this scoreboard bleed green that I just danced a jig right in the middle of the room here. And nobody was around, but I wouldn't have cared if they were around, because that's how full of glee I was. And then I broke out something that I only break out on very special occasions, and that is Terminal Parrot. Yes. Yes. Y-E-S. All right, well, that concludes our series on Pentesting the OWASP Juice Shop. But since I still have you here, could you please do me one favor, maybe two? I'm going to show some Twitter handles on the screen now, and I would really, really appreciate it if you would tweet these folks and say, hey, thanks a lot for making this tool, because as I think you've been able to see, it's an incredible resource for pen testers and developers. And I'm not a developer, so I can only imagine how much freaking work putting something like this together must be. So please thank them for contributing this to the community. And also make sure that you star or favorite or follow whatever it is you do to GitHub things. Make sure you do that for the Juice Shop, because my understanding is that even as I've been recording this final episode today, there's already a bunch of new changes like around the corner in days, if not hours. So I think we're only seeing the start of what this awesome application will become. So, and hey, from me personally to the Juice Shop folks, thank you. Thank you for making this, and thank you especially for all your help, with this last episode, particularly in pointing me in the right direction and helping me unlock those last few reds to greens. I deeply appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to go rest it up and get some sleep. So take care, everybody, and if you need anything from me, my contact information will follow shortly. Have a blessed week. Bye-bye. You've been watching or listening to an episode of 7 Minute Security, a weekly podcast focusing on IT and information security topics, such as penetration testing, network configuration, virtualization, and career advice. For more information, visit www.7ms.us.